If you look at the national commentary in newspapers, on social media and on TV, you'd assume that there's a lot wrong in our country and increasingly more and more things are going wrong. But if you look at the research findings of the Pew Global Research Center, one of the most renowned, respected global research centers, it shows that an overwhelming majority of Indians feel that the Modi government is going in the right direction. And in fact, the people who feel that India is pulling in the right direction stand at twice the number from last year. Is there a big disconnect between the commentariat and the people out on the ground? Joining us on Newsroom this evening is Chandan Mitra, spokesperson for the Bharatiya Janata Party. He's joining us from Kolkata. With us also on this broadcast is Siddharth Vardarajan, leading political analyst. I want to run the first data point from the Pew Research Center analysis. Prime Minister Modi's popularity. How did people rate the Prime Minister's popularity? 68% of the respondents said that the Prime Minister is rated as being very favourable. 19% say somewhat favourable. 6% say somewhat unfavourable. And 5% say very unfavourable. But the key thing there is that 68% of the respondents view the Prime Minister very favourably. 19% view him somewhat favourably. Taken together, that's almost 87%. Siddharth Vardarajan, if we were to read some of what has been appearing in social media, online, in newspapers, watch some of the TV channels, you wouldn't get the sense that 87% of respondents are satisfied with the way the Modi government is going.
Yeah, I mean, how the question is phrased and how the problem is framed has an important bearing on the kind of outcome you get. Now, many of the questions that the Pew Research Group frames is, do you have a favourable impression? And I was quite struck, forget the Modi statistic for a second, but viewers should realize that Rahul Gandhi, who is a person pilloried every day in the media, has a favourable rating of as high as 66%. Which one would never have imagined would be the case. So I think that there's a certain amount of grade inflation that people apply both to Rahul Gandhi and to Narendra Modi and also to Aam Aadmi Party, which has a very high
Okay, I'm coming to AAP and I'm coming to Rahul Gandhi which, separately. But the first point that you made was you raised questions about the manner in which the questions were framed. And I want to go across to Chandan Mitra because the manner in which the questions were framed can answer a part of the response. But if 87% people feel that the Modi government is doing a good job in their case, do you believe that throws up a grave disconnect, Mr. Mitra, between the commentariat and people out on the ground?
Well, the commentariat should never be taken seriously, especially in anything that involves Mr. Narendra Modi or the BJP, because they have a pathological hatred. Almost the entire commentariat is left-oriented. They are dyed-in-the-wool Marxists who are unable to see the Indian reality. Marxists never saw the Indian reality. So their leftovers, namely the commentariat, also can't see the reality. So I wouldn't take the commentariat seriously at all. What I would say is that those journalists who have gone out to the streets, who have gone out to the villages and inquired from ordinary people would have come to the same conclusion. You don't need an American agency telling you how popular Mr. Modi is or how popular he remains or how his popularity has grown since the election. It is for everyone here to see, only if you want to look for it. If you don't want to look for it, if you only want to look for the muck, you will get the muck.
You've taken several pot shots at political commentators and I want Siddharth Vardarajan to respond to that. But before that, let me run the next data point. And this deals with the Prime Minister's own popularity and what people made of it. And now we're going to look at BJP supporters, Congress supporters and AAP supporters. Let's see first, amongst BJP supporters, 83% view him very favourably, 11% somewhat favourably, 2% somewhat unfavourably, 3% very unfavourably. But that's to be understood. Whereas, because naturally if you voted for the BJP, you're bound to like the Prime Minister. Amongst Congress supporters, 41% view the Prime Minister favorably. Now that's surprising, because if someone says he's a Congress supporter, then why do 41% of those think that Modi is popular? 33% view him somewhat favorably. Taken together, that's about 74% who view Modi favorably, even though they say they voted for the Congress. Amongst AAP also, Prime Minister Modi's popularity is taken favorably by 59% and somewhat favorably by 28%. Now, Siddharth Varadarajan, you were baffled by one other data point, but this is something that really throws up several questions. That even amongst those who say they voted for AAP or voted for the Congress, even there the Prime Minister is not being dismissed. They have a somewhat favorable view of the Prime Minister's popularity.
No, undoubtedly. I mean, there is no question that if you compare Mr. Modi's appeal to that of any other political leader within the BJP or among the opposition parties, there is nobody who matches his appeal, nobody who matches his oratory. So this is a result along expected lines. What I would caution is any rush to draw a great deal of political significance or analysis from these kinds of numbers. Chandan Mitra said the commentariat is out of touch. Well, I want to put this to him. The BJP introduced the land bill claiming that this is something that's going to benefit farmers and the rural sector. After pressing ahead with that for 3 or 4 months, wisdom dawned and the party realized that there is a groundswell of public opposition in rural areas to the land bill, and they withdrew that measure, and now they're claiming that the act of withdrawal is a great pro-farmer move that they took. Now, if you look at the Pew results, the Prime Minister has a very favorable rating even in rural areas. So, did Modi not know this? Did the BJP not know this? And if the Pew numbers are valid, why did the BJP do a U-turn on the land bill? So, I think that the BJP's own instincts in withdrawing the land bill speaks greater volumes, tells us more about the ground reality and the BJP's perception of this reality.
Let Chandan Mitra respond. It's not as if the commentariat is saying things which are not being heard. Okay. They raised objections to the land bill. The Prime Minister was forced to go back. So people like Siddharth Varadarajan and others have an important role to play. You can't dismiss them as being Marxist communists.
Well, Marxist, communist or otherwise, commentariat in a democracy has a role, and sometimes they do a lot of damage to the system, but we have to take them along. But that's besides the point. But I don't agree that the BJP learned from this so-called groundswell of public opinion in the rural areas against the land bill. I don't think it was really tested on the ground. You had a few, I would say, takedars of this so-called public opinion, namely the political parties, section of the commentariat, which created a huge hue and cry. And we knew in any case that if you could not get a very, very important and progressive measure like the GST bill, which was actually fathered by the Congress, you couldn't get this through the Rajya Sabha, it was obvious that the Congress would not allow you to pass the land bill in the Rajya Sabha too. So it made no sense to kind of carry on this friction. We shall devise other methods. The finance minister and others have urged the states to devise their own land bills and go ahead and make progressive changes in the system, which people will do. And I think that that is fine. We've had to take a via media measure.
Let me now look at what respondents think of the Prime Minister's handling of key domestic issues, starting with access to key toilets, to clean toilets. 71% say they approve of the Prime Minister's handling of this critical problem. 25% disapprove. When it comes to unemployment, 67% say they approve of what the Prime Minister is doing to create jobs. 29% disagree. On terrorism, 66% approve, 28% disagree. On helping the poor, 63% approve, 32% disapprove. On rising prices, 63% approve, 35% disapprove. On corruption, 61% approve, 33% disapprove. But look very carefully at the data point coming up on your screen next. When it comes to communal relations, 35% disapprove and only 53% approve. Ratings Chandan Mitra, the Prime Minister, has in any data point on the Pew Research study is when it comes to communal relations. There, the people who responded to this survey don't think the Prime Minister is doing a good job. Are communal relations proving to be the Achilles heel of this BJP government?
No, of course not. But you know, here I am going to borrow some phrases from my friend Siddharth Varadarajan, and I would like to know that how the question was framed. It is very important, especially in subjects like as sensitive as communal relations. You need to know how the questioner has framed the question before you give the answer. So I think it will be useful, Rahul, if you have the question as it was framed. I think I would be able to give a better answer.
But this is interesting. This is very interesting. In the one response you didn't like, your answer is exactly the same as that of Siddharth Varadarajan for the answers he didn't like. So what you like, those questions you agree with, and the questions that the answer that you don't like, you say that the question is worded wrongly. I'm afraid that's a classical political neta
I'm asking you how the question. No. This is not. Let's not get into one-upmanship. I'm asking you what was the question.
The question, Chandan, is what do you think of the Prime Minister's handling of key domestic issues? Several issues are laid down, which I read out to you. When it comes to communal relations, 35% disapprove, 53% approve. And this is the one data point on which the Prime Minister has the lowest overall approval ratings.
What kind of question? What kind of question is this? What kind of question is, what do you think of the Prime Minister's handling of communal relations? I mean, communal relations in India don't require day-to-day handling. Various communities in India have been living side by side for thousands of years. You don't need to have a constant handling. Like in America, the issues between the blacks and the whites need constant handling and monitoring. In India, communal relations don't require that kind of thing. And therefore, I think communal relations in India have been very stable and peaceful. Maybe some people who were polled, I don't know what the percentage was, maybe too many of them did not agree with Mr. Modi's handling, whatever he's had to handle. I can't see what he has had to handle in the last
Siddharth Varadarajan, there hasn't been a single communal riot. Chandan Mitra says, what are people cribbing about? And in any case, 53% think he's done a good job. 53 is much more than the 35 who think he's not doing well. So if you look at it overall, he's got great popularity everywhere. On this also, he's doing well, but not as well as elsewhere.
Yes, I think here let me bat on behalf of Chandan for a second. I don't think he needs to be apologetic about this figure or fish around for what the phrasing of the question was. I think 53% is still a majority, which approves of Prime Minister Modi's handling as per the survey. But what's interesting about the numbers, right? That the largest approval, the greatest approval rating is for his initiative on toilets, followed by unemployment, and at the end is communal relations. So there's a sense in which people, I think, are responding positively to many of the initiatives that the Prime Minister has taken. I think what he said about toilets on Independence Day in 2014 was amazing. And I think everybody applauded the fact that an Indian Prime Minister was making this a priority. And then you have the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. There's a little bit of gimmickry. It's not clear to what extent will this translate into concrete initiatives on the ground. But I think everybody applauds the idea that the PM is making this a priority. But when you come to communal relations, here you have a classic case where the PM proposes and the Sangh Parivar disposes, right? So the PM is talking the fine talk, talking about a 10-year moratorium on hate speech, and then you have members of his party, members of the Sangh Parivar, saying obnoxious things, being provocative, engaging in campaigns at the grassroots level, which is, you know, it is, I think, making a lot of people very, very uncomfortable. And I think what Prime Minister Modi needs to do if he's going to take these numbers seriously is to read into this. He has to ask himself, why is it that my approval rating on toilets is so high? And why is it that a good 20% less people, 20 percentage points of people think my handling of common relations is not so good. And I think he needs to do some introspection.
I think you make an important point
some
there.
Kind of course
and I'm going to let that be the last word.
Dealing with the Sangh Parivar, dealing with the kind of statements his ministers and MPs are making.
The approach cannot be that you agree with some data points and disagree with others. If you believe in data, then you must look carefully at all data points and not dismiss them when they don't suit you. But one thing which I think comes out through this is that the mood in the country is not as despondent as it is amongst some sections. That is very clear. If 87% think they approve of the work that the Prime Minister is doing, that's a big number, and that's coming from one of the leading research agencies in the world. For the time being, Siddharth Varadarajan and Chandan Mitra for joining me on the newsroom this evening. Thank you very much.